Was the United States government secretly training gifted students to be superpowered CIA agents? I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand and to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. Also, I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience is equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires. That's the oath. The gateway affirmation. As of late, the conspiracy and the woo-woo sides of the internet have been abuzz with discussion surrounding a program that many gifted kids were a part of in elementary school during the 1980s, 1990s, and some the 2000s. GATE programs in schools were especially designed to encourage growth in students who are identified as more academically advanced or artistically advanced than their peers. The idea was to encourage further growth in students who weren't being challenged enough in their standard classroom environments. The teaching approaches used were focused mostly on enrichment and acceleration, teaching deeper or more complicated material that would allow them to get a more complex understanding of the standard materials and topics for students their age. These formerly gifted kids are thinking back about their time in the program and realizing some very strange things. Some of the things that popular creators are talking about are hardly having any memory of the program or that period in their life, putting on big headphones and listening to strange noises or a strange voice saying strange things, overlapping with high-pitched beeping sounds or nature sounds, being given language ciphers that they were tasked with decoding, including puzzles which used Morse code and Russian. Otherwise, simply being taken out of their normal classroom, away from other students, and just generally not knowing what was going on. This foggy recollection of doing weird stuff for weird reasons has made these people wonder, what exactly were they training us for? Some think that it may have been a program related to the CIA's Gateway program, which was active in the 70s predominantly. So, what we're gonna do today is I'm going to take you through some posts from around the internet, mostly TikToks and Reddit posts, from adults who were in these GATE or gifted student programs back in elementary school, and who now think that there was something more, something nefarious going on in the programs. Oh yeah, and I want to warn you, I am still a novice video producer, so I learn like one video production thing every few months, and I'm gonna do my best with what I got. Let's see. The dogs are in the video with me today because they can't act right outside. So, just if you see this big dumb head, that's Corn Dog. He's full of shit. Alright, so, an article published by the New York Post in January 2025 is titled, "I was enrolled in gifted classes as a child. I now believe it was a CIA training program." This article, written by Adriana Diaz, examines the assertions made online by a number of different individuals who have reached some level of infamy through their content regarding their time being trained to become superpowered CIA operatives. Or at least for their assertions that they think this might be the case. The most popular creator cited in this article is Anna Mills, who posted several videos to TikTok where she shows off some of the old worksheets that she kept from her time in the gifted student program called GATE back in the 1990s. Looking through all of the old paperwork, which includes coded ciphers and puzzles in the Russian language, she states, "The stuff I found in there, I'm like, what were you training us for?" Her tag online is at AnnaMillsXO23. Anna is credited by many sources as being the one who opened up a massive can of worms throughout the internet by reinvigorating an old conspiracy theory that the gifted students programs in elementary school were being used to recruit and train kids to become psychic government operatives. We're gonna look at some of these claims and see what they're saying. So Rachel the Dreamer says she wants this video to get spread around and blown up. So I'm good to share it here, I figure. We know, this is what she says in the video. We know that the gifted and talented Tag Gate GT program, whatever you want to call it, that was conducted in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and maybe into 2000s, we know that they were experimenting on us. We know it. We now know it. There are direct correlations that have been laid out. Okay, so we know that the GT program was using the Gateway Experience CIA tapes on us. We know that. It's all been confirmed. This is what Rachel the Dreamer said. She goes on to mention that many of the students who were a part of these gifted programs grow up to learn that they are neurodivergent, ADHD, dyslexia, etc. Then she talks about some gene mutation, which is very odd. I don't think most people get their genes tested. I know I sure haven't. She mentions excessive fluoride and says that it calcifies the pineal gland, and things about folate and such. I don't believe she's a medical doctor. I didn't look into her background or expertise, but she's not talking like a medical doctor. Oh, jeez. This is weird anti-science conspiracy theory stuff that people really love. But she's not citing any sources. Alright, and then we've got Ashley Hahn. She says pretty confidently that the gifted... Corn's drinking water. If the dogs don't calm down and let me record, I might cry. You good, Corn? Ashley Hahn says pretty confidently that the gifted student program would pull certain kids out of the classroom and test their psychic and intuitive capabilities. She says that she saw a video on her FYP For You page on TikTok, for anyone not over there, where they played the audio that they used to give to the students. I don't see a link to the video. I feel inclined to suggest that perhaps those videos possibly are trolls, and they're using spooky audio to gain clicks. It's hard to say because none of these creators post their sources. And then we've got Sunny Day Cool Tea on TikTok. He asserts that the GATE program for students was founded and funded by the CIA, and that the students would be brought into a windowless room, blindfolded, and made to try to move things with their minds. And they were brought into a room with a mummy and forced to stay the night with the mummy. What in the world? My classroom certainly had windows, and we never went to a mummy. Literally none of that happened at all. Once again, no sources are cited. So I was in the gifted program also. In my state, it's called REACH. I think I explained that a little bit later. It still happens. I found the website to sign your kid up for it, or like put in an application or whatever. I'll wait till the end to talk about my experience in the gifted student program. But so these are the main ones, the TikTok videos, and then let me see if I can get the Reddit posts pulled up. Before I get into the Reddit posts, actually, I found the comment sections of a couple of these TikTok videos that I think are worth discussing. So on Rachel the Dreamer's video, she's the one who, let's see, Rachel the Dreamer was the one who said, confidently in a very long video, that we know for a fact that they were experimenting on the gifted students. So some of her comments read, I was in the gifted and talented, and I was diagnosed with the homozygous MTHFR, which is that gene mutation she was talking about. I also had a high IQ in school, commenter says. And this person, they also talk about a pink drink they were forced to consume. This commenter says, okay, but am I crazy? Did the pink drink taste like kind of sweet, like a legit bubblegum type of taste with a Pepto consistency? I remember a pink drink. I remember, with this emoji. Corn, do something else. And then another commenter says, after GATE in 2nd grade, I had a ton of night terrors, and sleep paralysis episodes. Very lucid. Went on for a couple decades. My memory is horrible now in my 40s. And another commenter says, I'm so confused on why I can't remember everything. I remember a lot, but thinking back 1 through 3rd grade, I was so advanced. So lots of comments are confirming all of the assertions made in the video there. And then I think, yes, I've got some comments from Sunday Cool Tea, who was the one who was talking about making the kids stay with a mummy, right? And some of those comments say, I was in the GATE program. The tests that were performed on me and the results were crazy. My parents were busted by CIA and FBI as they started to speak out about the effects and what they were doing. Let's see. Another person said, we went on weird field trips quite often, and I was in the special school district. I fully believe I was experimented, and many other children in my school. Everything learning from Morse code to weird blocks, weird IQ, the headphones, and the tones meditation classes, advanced medical training classes. Every single experiment that all these different videos talk about, I've done. It was done on a regular basis at least once a month. We have the hearing test. I had to let the dogs out. I don't know if you noticed, but Corn was just screaming constantly over here. So hopefully they chill out outside. I'm back. Anyway, the cool thing about posting on the internet is that you get either no response and you're completely ignored, people who hate you find you and they're mean, or people who really love that what you said makes them feel special find you and blow you up with a bunch of confirmation bias. So that's the TikToks and the comments. So you get an idea of this sort of world these people have fostered with their followers. And now I found some Reddit posts. I just really want to prove that this is a common thing, right? So this is posted in Our Intelligence by a user named Mallory Alex with 2 X's. The post reads, hey there, sorry if this is in the wrong sub. If it is, I'll be happy to delete. In the last month or so, I came across the fact that GATE, Gifted and Talented Education, was a program that the CIA had begun for testing. I've been able to find that, yes, the CIA was leading GATE. But I haven't been able to find much more other than that. Of course, I can comb CIA files, but they're so convoluted that I try to do that as a last resort. As a former GATE kid, I'm just deeply curious on what the hell they wanted out of that boring-ass class. And we've got in r/RBI from the Epic Gamer 69 Classic. The post is called GATE, the nefarious, gifted, and talented program people across the internet seem to be remembering. The meat of it is, don't think this has been mentioned on the sub before. I recently came across some people on the internet, especially on Reddit and TikTok, claiming to have elementary school memories of these GATE, gifted and talented programs that involved several exercises, the most commonly mentioned being wearing clanky 90s headphones and listening to audio clips, supposedly brainwashing them to be susceptible to out-of-body experiences / lucid dreaming. Different people are claiming to remember similar things, such as an exercise matching shapes together or reading a book upside down. One thing they all have in common is their tendency to forget most of or all of what happened in the program until later in their adult lives. Certain accounts even recall them consuming some kind of pink drink, which was said to be a drug for the memory loss. Most people mainly just remember resenting going to the program or begging their parents to let them pull out of it. Proponents of this strange story are convinced it was some kind of CIA experiment that ran from the late 80s to early 2000s. Has anyone else here shared similar experiences or encountered similar stories? I got 2 more. So this one was a response. Oh, this one actually I'm going to save for later. So we've got this one in R Gifted from an account username deleted. It says, just wondering who else is aware now that the Gifted program was a CIA operation. The documents are declassified now. Are you okay that your parents let you be experimented on? This was posted 5 months ago. The CIA Gateway Experience program's paperwork was declassified like over 10 years ago, at least. I think it was 2013, something like that. Anyway, so as you can see, lots and lots of people who were formerly in those gifted student programs very strongly are concerned that the government was messing with their heads, trying to brainwash them, giving them pink juice that made their memories go away, and trying to teach them how to do astral projection and stuff like that. So that's a scary thing to believe and be worried about. And I'll give them that. So the next thing that we're gonna do though, right? My Microsoft Word is all jacked up. It does alien text. Alright, now I'm going to tell you about the actual Gateway experience, or the CIA Gateway program. Stage 2. So, what was the Gateway program, or Gateway experience? I'll go over some of the history, what the project entailed, and the methods used throughout the program. Maybe if we understand what it was about and what they did, we can see what these previously gifted student content creators are talking about and what parallels they're seeing, right? We're approaching this kindly and scientifically. Historically, perhaps. So, there once was a guy named Robert Monroe. He was a broadcasting executive in New York. Pretty average fella by all accounts, until one day in the year 1958. Picture it. He accidentally astral projected. So, in case you don't know what astral projection is, in the simplest terms, it is the act of getting your spirit or soul or consciousness to leave your physical body and then go around and observe and sometimes manipulate events of the universe that you could never reach otherwise. This means seeing the past or the future, or being somehow present for things beyond our natural space and time. Sorry, dogs were barking. It's hard today. Anyway, so astral projecting, you can see and manipulate the past, the future, or the present in different places, right? Like you could go to China or Indonesia or Antarctica, but right now, but with your brain. Get what I mean? This is a concept that goes by many names and is an aspect of many different religions and spiritual belief systems. The gist is simply that you can take the energy and consciousness out of your body and put it wherever in the universe you want. This is believed to allow humans to reach a state of enlightenment or deep universal spiritual knowledge. It's cool stuff. I think it's neat. It's an idea. An introduction document for the Gateway program presented by the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences states, unpredictably and without willing it, Monroe found himself leaving his physical body to travel via a second body to locales far removed from the physical and spiritual realities of his life. He wrote a book about this weird experience called Journeys Out of the Body, which was published in 1971. In the 60s, Monroe started to study possible connections between sounds and how the brain works. He came up with a weird machine, not really different from a tape deck or CD player, really, and he used it to play different sounds and sound patterns to see if it had any interesting effects on the listener. He believed that you could assert some control over a person's brainwaves through the use of different sound patterns. In 1971, the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences was founded. It is interesting to think that in just like 13 years, something like that, someone could go from being a broadcasting executive to being a respected and influential like, scientist and start his own college. I don't feel like that could happen now. Okay, well, maybe if someone had, like, enough money, but you'd think that if that's all it took, I would be well respected and influential by now with how long I've put into my nonsense. Whatever. It's just jealousy talking. I'm jealous of a man in the 70s. Aren't we all, though? Anyway, the Gateway program at the Monroe Institute claims to be aimed at teaching people how to intentionally switch back and forth between different levels of perception and consciousness. The letter, the introductory letter explaining the program, right, that I alluded to before, states, "First, we are training interested individuals to switch their perception to areas or fields outside the realm of our physical matter reality. We call these non-physical realities. Then we examine the data and bring it back." The data that they bring back. My bad. It was named the Gateway Program because this series of techniques do lead to a gateway into different modes of perception. Now I'll talk how this is connected to the CIA. Because right now, where we are, it's just some weird dude in the 70s who had a weird experience and made a big deal out of it, right? Started his college. So, the United States Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, is pretty well known for its tendency to try all kinds of weird stuff in pursuit of its goal, finding information that will aid in the pursuit of national and international operations. One thing that the CIA has pretty consistently and repeatedly tried to do is to manipulate the human mind in order to extract information, which means, generally, to get information out of individuals who don't want to share it willingly or are unable to share it because it's sort of buried in the unconscious, like traumatic things that maybe they can't remember on their own. The simplest way is like torture techniques, Inquisition style stuff. Try to get people to talk, right? And then MK Ultra, So that's usually the main goal of the brain stuff that the CIA has done, is to extract information from people. However, they have also tried to get people to find information from across the world or even universe by taking them outside of their body and getting them to tap into the mysteries of the unknown. Sounds lofty, but terrifying. The most famous example of the government messing with human consciousness is probably MK Ultra. MK Ultra went on for 20 years, between 1953 and around 1973. And this was a top secret project conducted by the CIA to test how ridiculous drug cocktails, essentially, and like LSD might be used for mind control and psychological information gathering. By the 80s, the CIA had started in on a new project, trying to do the same thing, but with less intense methods. As far as I can tell, they moved away from the assaulting participants with drugs aspect, and they were now invested in Monroe's methods of transcending the physical through the Gateway experience. So basically, the Gateway experience was described as a training system. This was a series of trainings that were designed to enhance strength, focus, and personal control over one's brainwaves so that an individual can shift between the left and right hemispheres of their own brain in order to alter their consciousness and ultimately gain access to the hidden knowledge of the universe. I believe that earlier, in the very beginning, I said that the Gateway experience was a CIA thing mostly during the 70s. I'm going to call myself out on that because it was not. MK Ultra ended in the 70s and was pretty quickly replaced with Gateway, but I think like I said here, it was the 80s that the Gateway experience became the thing they were doing. So ignore that 70s thing I said earlier. Anyway. So the Gateway Project became of major interest to the CIA because it used audio stimulation on the brain, esoteric spiritual practices like meditation and visualization, and other strange techniques all together to encourage individuals to reach a state of higher consciousness. These higher consciousness states include astral projection, ESP, which is the ability to manipulate objects with the mind, think Matilda, and mind reading, essentially. Hang on, I gotta unalien my text. So the project was seen as valuable to CIA and US government officials, mostly because of the potential it showed for the acquisition of information through these psychic techniques and out-of-body experiences. Notes from the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command to the commander of the U.S. Army Operational Group in Fort Meade, Maryland, dated June 9, 1983, signed by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne M. McDonald. That's what I'm going to use for a lot of this information. I posted the actual document, the PDF file, on Patreon, and it's available to people with in the $5 tier or higher to look at. I uploaded that a few days ago, but that's what I'm referring to when that's what I got these notes from, right? From Colonel Wayne M. McDonald, June 1983. This letter appears to be a response to a request for an assessment of the Gateway experience in regard to its usefulness as a military project. As in, the commander of the operational group wanted to know if the program was effective or worth doing at all. For this 29-page letter, there are 9 scholarly sources cited in the bibliography, and it's written like a research paper, which is pretty cool. Like I said, I uploaded a copy of the document to my paid patrons over at Patreon/BackAlleyAlchemist. Anyway, here's a summary of what it said. The letter starts off by explaining that the Gateway experience, referring to it as the Monroe Institute technique for achieving altered states of consciousness. The writer states that this technique involves the synchronization of the 2 hemispheres of the brain. Brain hemisphere, synchronized. Ooh, there we go. I did the fusion dance. The right brain and the left brain, as people typically refer to them in conversation. The writer details the methods that are used in these experiments to try to get the brain synced up with both sides of it working together. So the goal of the Gateway experience is ultimately to get the 2 sides of the brain to work in unison together, bridging that gap that makes one hemisphere operate separately from the other, hoping that the synchronization could lead to different states of consciousness. I'm going to do a side note right here. My side note is that I am not a neuroscientist. I've studied the brain like a little bit, like Psych 101 back in community college type stuff, and then whatever. But I believe that there is a fundamental complication to this concept of syncing up the hemispheres and saying that one side does one thing and one side does the other, because people have lost power to half of their brain from accidents and stuff, and they can only use one half of it, but they're still able to do most things. Like, they say that the left side of the brain is the logical part and the right side's the emotional or artistic, right? A lot of this Gateway stuff is based on that assertion. But if someone loses access to a big chunk of their brain over here, that doesn't mean that they are incapable of logic. So if anyone knows more about that and wants to drop it in the comments and share what you found, I don't really have time to dig into that on top of the rest of this video, but that would be a fun conversation to have. And I might look into it myself. I don't know. If I get bored. The letter explains the ways in which the Gateway experience differs from practices or belief systems which emphasize transcendence or spiritual awakening. McDonald states that the hemi-sync, they call it that, the hemisphere syncing, the hemi-sync technique is what makes it unique. This is, as I explained earlier, the idea of syncing up both hemispheres of the brain. Allegedly, according to the text, hemi-sync is identified when the EEG, brainwave measurement shit, patterns of both hemispheres are equal in strength and frequency. According to the letter, the hemi-sync state is rare and only lasts a short time, based on their findings at the time the letter was written. One method of achieving hemisync and measuring it is to administer certain sounds and beats through the headphones. And this is one of the most effective methods in achieving the synchronization of brain hemispheres. So, the special noises through the headphones is one of the things about the project that has been caught in the memory of individuals who are talking about it online today. You know, the beep beep beep. So, now that we know what these people remember experiencing while they were pulled aside into the gifted student programs in elementary school, and we know a reasonable amount of detail as to what the CIA's Gateway program was, we can look at the similarities. Stage 3. The first and most obvious connection that many people have made is simply in the name. For many people, the gifted students program in their school district was called GATE. GATE for school-age children stands for Gifted and Talented Education. The name GATE makes people think that there is some relevance to the Gateway experience or Gateway program. Possibly because both started being used in the 80s, and they have GATE in them. It appears to me that many people refer to the program that the CIA did simply as the GATE program. Though, according to the declassified documents that I found, it's always called the Gateway program, project, or experience. They thought the way part of the word was important because it opens a gateway in the mind, right? So, GATE wasn't the only name for these gifted kids programs, either. For example, the program I was in was called REACH, which stood for Reaching Exceptional and Creative Heights, defined as a program for highly capable students. Some have been called TAG, Talented and Gifted. All of these programs are basically the same, but they have different acronym names depending on the state or the school district or whatever. So, that's not a good enough connection, the name. That's what I'm saying. The second most common connection that I've been seeing people make has to do with the headphones, which emitted weird sounds into their ears. We've seen posters and content creators describe these eerie memories of adults placing the big headphones on them and then pushing buttons on a machine while they listen to a recording of a voice saying strange words, or a beeping sound that would get higher or lower pitched, or get quieter and then louder. And we've talked about how the Gateway experience participants would put similar headphones on and have different beats and rhythms and sounds played into their ears to elicit certain brainwave responses, hoping that it would make their brain hemispheres sync up, right? We remember that? Yeah, I just said that. Anyway, this is one connection between the gifted student program and the CIA operation. Unfortunately, for those of us who had the big headphones and the beeps done to our heads as kids, those were almost definitely hearing tests. Most of the time. Every state is different, but some states have a standard set by the Board of Health that requires yearly hearing screenings for school students. The state boards of health are the ones that set the requirements for the yearly screenings, and they include which students are screened, how often, approved tools, referral criteria, procedures, and staff qualifications. For example, Washington State updated their rules on this in June of this year, 2025. Really, all they updated since the last update in 2002 was changing the terms and language used and incorporating updated practices and methods. The most common procedure for testing a kid's hearing is called pure tone testing, and this is a quick test that involves putting on headphones and raising your hand whenever you hear the beep. The tone of the beeps changes, and your hearing is measured based on the spectrum of tones that your ears can pick up. Kids can usually hear higher pitches than grown-ups can. And my personal experience in the gifted student program classes, I actually remember putting the headphones on or having the teacher play it on a radio, like classical music, or someone talking in a low tone with nature sounds happening in the background. And my teacher would do this, or we would listen to this when we were drawing or writing. And it was supposed to like relax us and help our artistic creative flow. So I remember that too. and I remember exactly why we did it. We were supposed to listen to the sounds and kind of draw or write whatever it made us think about. And that's not weird. That's like a normal thing to do to unlock creativity, you know? So if it wasn't just the hearing tests, it might have been that. And that's not spooky. That's well documented and reasonable. Ball busting over here, ain't I? So, the third commonly cited experience that makes people think something weird was going on is the drinking of the strange pink liquid. Several posters and creators have asserted that while they were involved in these gifted student programs, they were made to consume a strange pink drink. Now, I haven't seen any mention of having participants in the Gateway experience, like the real CIA one, drink any special cocktails or anything of that nature, but I will admit that I haven't read every source word for word, though it seems like altering the brain state through outside forces maybe would have been counterintuitive to the goals of the program, because the program... Sorry, I hit my microphone. I hope that wasn't terrible. The program was designed to teach people how to control their own consciousness, but it wouldn't be crazy to assume that they may have used some tools to help along the early learning stages, I guess, like they did with the audio beats. Myself and a handful of commenters around the internet share the belief that this mysterious liquid was a fluoride rinse. So fluoride rinse programs have been common in elementary schools for decades now, and you are not supposed to swallow that, by the way. I remember doing this myself, and I have found a number of articles related to the practice. Typically, the teacher or assigned adult will explain that you're supposed to swish the liquid around in your mouth and then spit it out when they say to. The swishing activity typically goes on for 30 seconds, and then you're told to spit it back out into a cup. If the pink juice wasn't a fluoride rinse, it may very well have been like pink lemonade or something that was provided as a treat for students in the group. I remember we got snacks and treats and shit all the time. And I thought it was because we were special and so we deserved special snacks, but I realized as an adult, it's just like how the Reach teacher liked to do things. It was her own personal choice to bring us snacks. Anyway, so that's possibilities with the pink drink. So, another connection that people have made. And this one seems to get a lot of attention because people eat this shit up, right? The codes and ciphers. Many people remember getting strange worksheets. Remember one creator actually shows some off in a video. I'll pull that up again so you look at it. That instructed them to break complicated codes to find the secret message. A lot of these symbols that took the place... A lot of these were symbols that took the place of words or letters. Fly. Yeah. Recording today has been complicated. Now there's a fly. Fuck it, we ball. A lot of these codes and puzzles involved symbols that took the place of words or letters. Some had normal alphabets or numbers that represented different letters, and some were in different languages, like Russian sometimes, and the Chinese, or Morse code, different symbols to use. People remembering these code-breaking tasks have wondered if this was part of some secret training that was meant to hone their skills for being a spy or a secret agent. Unfortunately, these are just standard puzzles. Codes and ciphers make fantastic puzzles for kids, and adults really, to practice critical thinking, problem solving, and just flex those brain muscles in general. Worksheets like these are widely known to help improve memory, focus, and concentration. It also helps develop a deeper understanding of how language is used. So puzzles like this are extremely common and well loved by educators because of these benefits. They may often be too complicated for younger kids, but for anyone who was in a gifted program, it was just a very simple and fun way to get better at thinking. It's not weird. Once again, it's actually very normal. The last point that I want to talk about, which has come up a great deal among those who are worried that they were being mind controlled to be shaped into super soldiers, uh, is the memory loss. This is a big one that is cited very often among those previously gifted students. Many claim that no matter how hard they try to remember what they did during their gifted class sessions, they cannot remember a damned thing. Maybe they remember the pink liquid, maybe they remember being disoriented and confused, or perhaps they remember a few random moments, but generally, no one seems to have a clear memory of their time in these programs. Why might that be? Honestly, that's probably just because the majority of people can't remember very much about their day-to-day life or experiences in the classroom from before they were like 12 years old. It's extremely rare for adults to retain detailed memories from childhood, especially if you experienced any kind of trauma or you're any kind of neurodivergent, and especially memories that were boring at the time. We tend to remember things that were exciting or frightening or just generally we have some strong emotional connection to them. And it would be really weird and a waste of brain power for everyone to remember all of the mundane things that we sat through as children. I'm sure that if you ask anyone over the age of like 25, they probably won't remember more than a few of the regular activities that they did in elementary school. It's like, so what I'm saying is, you weren't having your memory wiped. People just don't remember third grade very well. Like, no one. I remember some stuff, but I have a freakishly good long-term memory. It's just my short-term memory's garbage. No idea what I was doing an hour ago. But I remember reading a really high-level book in third grade. It was White Fang, and my teacher, Mrs. Davies, was so impressed that she gave me a dime because she didn't have anything in the reward box that was good enough to suit that, so I got a dime. I remember that. Don't know what I ate yesterday, though. And I promised going into this, I promised myself anyway, that I was gonna be nice. I'm shitting on it all, though, aren't I? I'm doing it nicely, though, right? I'm not being mean, I'm not making fun of anyone. I am offended that no one's citing their sources, making it more difficult for me to talk about it. But whatever. To be fair, I will not have been citing every single source I've used at the end. I'll do my best, but I went on a frantic research binge, and I did not write down all of my sources. But I'll have the best stuff, or the big stuff. I'll post the big stuff at the end. So, anyway. My first thought concerning this conspiracy theory was that if they were training gifted kids to be super soldiers, they sure did a bad job. Because most of us are just doing normal, boring shit like everyone else. What a waste of time and resources that must have been, right? So my 2 cents, my experiences in the gifted program, right? So I was in the gifted program in elementary school too. And like I said, I remember listening to headphones and writing a story. I remember everyone, not just the gifted students, taking the hearing tests. I remember the code cracking puzzles. We also did big debate projects. I remember we did a big debate for we spent a bunch of time on it. We had 2 debate teams, and we were talking about a proposed project to construct the high school in a different area instead of rebuilding the old one. And we did a debate. I remember building Rube Goldberg machines, at least one. And then we did competitions that were math Olympics style, where we'd be set into groups and then the teacher would pull up math problems and stuff like that, and we would compete. I know that higher than average intelligence in youth is often seen as an aspect of being neurodivergent in some way, or neurodivergent kids tend to seem more advanced in certain areas. I know that I found out when I was 30 that I have ADHD, for example. And we also got to remember that being weird tends to come with memory problems, like I mentioned. I'm honestly fascinated that anything gets into my long-term memory when I can't remember it an hour later. Like, I'll probably remember what I ate yesterday, like, a few months from now, if I remember the date and I think about what's going on in life at the time. I could probably get a pretty good estimation, but fuck if I can tell you right now. And so mostly, I guess like my point is that most people don't remember much about their day-to-day lives 20 or 30 years later. You probably were not being hypnotized or drugged to make you forget. You probably just regular forgot because that's normal and that's what happens. And I don't want to gaslight anyone, but that's just how brains work. We don't remember boring shit, because there's no use in doing so. Our bodies and brains are machines that work on, like, the most useful stuff gets the most energy, right? Your leg will stop working before your heart does because you need your heart more. Your brain will forget boring shit because you need to remember important shit. So, I am wondering though, because I do seem to remember more about those gifted classes than most people on the internet do. I wonder if I remember more about it just because I thought it was so fun. Like, I've always been a huge nerd, and doing those activities and getting to structure a debate was, like, really exciting for me. I feel like not every gifted student was as enthusiastic as I was, and it probably just seemed weird or boring for most kids. So maybe that, like, maybe I remember better because I thought it was so cool. Dogs are barking again. Someone kill me. And now where I get a little bit meaner. So, there's another thing about being alive that I'm going to mention, and I hope it doesn't come off as rude. Not trying to be a jerk, but it's something we have to remember about ourselves, right? So, those of us who were put into these gifted programs, or we won academic awards, or even awards for art or sports growing up, many of us were receiving a lot of praise and attention when we were kids. Grown-ups, either our parents or our coaches or our teachers, they were telling us that we were special. Those ribbons and medals and certificates were proof that we were better than our classmates. We were smarter, more talented, etc. So we, by and large, believed that we were indeed special. And then when we become adults and we feel like everyone else has caught up to us, or we get stuck into a lifestyle or a career that seems boring or meaningless, or even just ordinary, that can cause some unfortunate psychological stuff. We can get depressed and feel like something's wrong with us, or with the world, because we're supposed to be special. But look at us now, right? The human brain likes to fight things like that. And it can come up with excuses for why we're like this, or it'll make us angry at other people because it's obviously their fault that we're like this. Or it can formulate delusions to convince us that actually, yes, we are exceptional. And those delusions can be harmless and fun, like believing we're better at our hobbies than we rightly are, or making us aspire to greatness well past our prime, making us think that we're powerful witches or whatever. But those same feelings can also create harmful delusions, like that we need to do something extreme or crazy to fulfill the prophecy that we're obviously a part of because we're so special. Or maybe we think that the CIA is out to get us, or we were hypnotized and given a secret code word to activate us as super soldiers, and there's a chip in our brain that's reading our thoughts, right? So here's a Reddit comment on one of the threads about the gateway or the GATE program being a CIA thing on Reddit. Jay Crescent commented, "I was in GATE elementary school in 1996 to 2001, and it was just intense schooling for high IQ kids. I think the CIA association is just a coincidence and is being mistaken for curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And I think this is getting conflated with the Gateway program, run by the Central Intelligence Agency that was focused on expanding human consciousness. The pink juice was just a fluoride rinse. Your parents would sign a thing saying you can take it. It was called Swish at my school, and you definitely did not drink it. You spit it in the sink. The headphone tests were basic hearing screenings. The puzzles were just reassessments to make sure you stayed in the program. The most troubling thing about it was that they only gave children 10 minutes of recess daily. Sorry to destroy your Stranger Things fantasy fam, but I think y'all are making this something it isn't. This is just gate kids still not accepting that we ain't that special. You see what I mean? Unfortunately, the people who think that the program that they were in for gifted students in elementary school was a secret arm of the military gateway operation, are probably just suffering from a fading memory of childhood and an unconscious but very real need to feel like they are not a disappointment. Like they are, in fact, special, like they were made to believe long ago. I hope that's not too harsh, but like, you feel me? Shit, I wish they had been trying to teach me ESP and astral projection in school. I was stuck trying to learn that at home, with medium success. No, I still can't meditate. I cannot calm down. I cannot calm down enough to even regular meditate. I think I'm going to start working on that, though, because I need to chill. I'm going to have a heart attack. And, well, there you have it. That's the conspiracy going on right now. That's, the GATE program for students. That's the gifted and talented students in elementary school. That's a bunch of content creators' videos and posts where they think that they were being trained to be super secret psychic CIA agents. That's the history of the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences and the Gateway Experience. I've got some PDFs up on Patreon. If you want to join the $5 or more tier, you can see those. And we could potentially talk about them together. If you want to comment on the post where I uploaded the files, we can talk about it there. That would be fun. It includes a worksheet, or like a workbook, for the, the intermediate stage of the program. So that's pretty cool. And it has the full letter that I was using as a reference for basically how they do the techniques and some other stuff. So that's up on Patreon / Back Alley Alchemist. And that was me shitting on and debunking all of the major things that they mentioned. And I was interrupted at 20 to 30 times while recording this because of the dogs. So I hope that didn't have too much of a negative impact on the quality of your viewing experience. I did my best. So, like the video if you liked it and you want to support me, make me feel like what I do is worthwhile, and all of this effort amounts to something. As a previously gifted student who needs to somehow think that we're special somehow, a like will go a long way for me. Comment down below if you think I'm an asshole, or if you think that there's something to these conspiracy theories, or maybe an alternate explanation for any of this stuff. I'd love to hear it. Subscribe if you like this and want more nonsense. This is a little different from what I usually do, but it's my favorite type of thing to do, so hopefully there will be more of the nature. Join my Patreon if you want to help me live deliciously. No, I probably won't buy food with it. I think it would pay for my Microsoft program. My Microsoft account, where my Microsoft Word, every time I click anything on a Word document, it changes all of the text to Alien, and then when I switch and fix some of the text back from Alien, another chunk changes back to Alien, and I need to get that fixed, because this has been a nightmare, and I have essays and report papers to write for my school that I'm in now, so I need to figure that out. Donations through Patreon will go to solving this crisis. I don't know. I'll figure it out. I love you. Oh, speaking of Patreon, I would like to thank my patrons. So, thank you to Michael Matei, Patrick Finnegan, Christopher Coulson, Smoothie, Andre Davos, Walter Fate, Partial, Dale, McBabylegs, Ryan Pender, and Gregory Dent. And, of course, a special thank you to all of my free patrons who are there just to support me and do emotional support, being my cheerleaders. I love you as well. Fuck. Later, nerds. Please talk to me about this one. I want to talk about it. I put a lot of work into it. Come on, let's go.